Welcome to Kickin' in the Kitchen by the Catalyze podcast. I'm your host, Allyson Horst from the class of 28. I'm joined today in Morehead-Cain Scholar Kitchen by Nigel Parker from the class of 25 for the first edition of our video series showcasing seniors. Welcome, Nigel. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
How are you doing today after a food for thought?
I'm doing really well. It's been a busy day, busy week, busy semester, but I'm doing well.
Yeah. And you're obviously a senior. That's why you're here today.
Yeah.
Do you have any bucket list items before you graduate this spring?
Bucket list items. I really want to actually go to the planetarium. I've never been to that side of the building.
Yeah.
And I actually want to see, what's going on over there.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been on my list all year.
Yeah. I recently went. I was just in the cubicle area and it was so fancy. I was just walking through the hallways and it was a whole new world.
I've never been in the building.
I don't even can you go for free? I don't even know.
So.
Well, we got to check that out. Because I want to go too. Just let me know when you're going at this point. But tell me a little bit more about your Morehead-Cain journey. Take me back to when you're a senior in high school and you first heard about the Morehead-Cain.
Yeah. Senior year, Nigel, in the midst of COVID-19, sitting at home, getting ready for college applications. I have two older brothers, so they had gone through the process, but it was my turn. And when I found out that I was nominated, I really didn't know anything about the scholarship, the program, or even Carolina as a school to go to. I knew Carolina basketball, but I didn't really know or consider UNC as a school that was on my list until I was nominated. And I sort of went through the process and ended up in finalist weekend. Mm-hmm. And mine was virtual, but was still just a really impactful experience to almost compete, but be in that space, trying to make it to the next level of my education with students who were at the top of their respective schools, and learning about all of those people, learning about what the program actually has to offer, and speaking with a lot of alumni in my area and a lot of other scholars, current scholars at the time, was just really eye-opening and was ultimately sort of a no-brainer for me. I had other, opportunities to take, and my parents weighed in a good bit as well. But I think just between the financial opportunity and then the community that you build, and the kinds of experiences that you're able to have, it was a no-brainer for me. I ended up coming here and loving it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Wait, so who nominated you? How did you hear about this?
Yeah, so I went to an all-boys private school called Gilman in Baltimore, Maryland. And my college advisor was the one who notified me that the school nominated me for the program. I believe they nominated me and maybe one or two others. I'm not exactly sure. But told me about the program, told me that it was a really great opportunity. And there was a senior who was sort of a mentor to me when I was a freshman in high school who was a finalist. He didn't actually get the scholarship. He was a finalist. And I remember speaking to him about it as well, and learning about, all the things that he went through when he was a finalist, and his finalist weekend and all that. So it was really through my college advisor where I learned about it and sort of took off from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. How was his experience and advice compared to what you actually went through? Because I'm assuming he did in person because of before COVID.
Yeah, he had an in-person finalist experience, and most of his advice was around interviewing, and that was sort of the most nerve-wracking part of it, especially because he had in-person interviews. And it was a little bit different because for my interview, I was in my room, on Zoom with a panel of I think maybe 4 or 5 people. So it didn't exactly match up 1-to-1, but his excitement and his he was really impressed by the program, and really wanted it. He ended up doing great things and went to UPenn and is in a great place now. But really spoke very highly of the program and his experience as a finalist. And so he was also, as I said, my mentor in high school, but was captain of the track team and student body president, all these things. So he was someone I really looked up to. And so his sort of recommendation that I really sort of take it seriously and try to go for it was huge for me at the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I know I did mine virtually. Were you able to come on campus before you came to school, or how was that situation?
So I did not step foot on campus until after I knew that I had gotten the scholarship. It was in April or May, I want to say, when I finally got it, and my parents, wanted me to actually see the campus before making that final decision. And so we came down, and I'll never forget. It was an amazing time because there was nobody on campus. It was really odd to be here, but my host Simon Palmore was here, and he took me on a bit of a tour around campus, and it was great. And we came by the foundation as well, and David Greer and Ann Smith were here, and they greeted us, and it was just a really special opportunity. It was a very unique sort of one-on-one time that we got with some of the foundation staff, because no one was here. It was all sort of social distancing, and everyone was in their respective areas. But yeah, I didn't actually end up coming to campus until after I knew that I had the scholarship. Yeah.
And how was that shift when you got on campus? Because you're out of state, and that's kind of hard.
It was hard. And I remember at the time thinking about coming to the South. I had lived in San Antonio, Texas for a little bit in my, before high school and like elementary school. So I had a little bit of experience with the South, but nothing that I sort of could really relate to or no family in North Carolina or anything like that. And so it was an adjustment for sure. But I think the connections that I was able to make during my virtual finalist weekend really pulled me through. My freshman year, 5 out of the 8 guys that I lived with in E-House were all Morehead guys in my awesome. Class. And so that really was a huge part of my integration to the Carolina community and just feeling more comfortable coming in freshman year. I know a lot of other out-of-state students don't necessarily have that community to lean on. And so it was really great for me to have that and to really have a group of people that I could go to for, questions about which building is where and where are the good places to eat and things like that. Could lean on the people that, were from here, but also my hosts and other upperclassmen that had poured into me in my whole finalist process. Yeah.
Wait, so when you got on campus, were you all wearing masks? Like that was 2021, right?
Yeah. Masks were required, I want to say, for the first semester. And I think the second semester they were optional. But I remember actually the second semester was when I got COVID. That was for the first time. And it was not a great time. But yeah, freshman year was fully, everyone was masked in classes. It feels so distant now, but that was a huge part of freshman year.
Like, how was that, like joining clubs and stuff? I feel like you're just so like separated from the whole community.
Yeah. I think I want to say that there weren't really that many big gatherings. Like organizations weren't doing a huge like public events. And obviously at the time, everyone was very comfortable with Zoom and that sort of format. So some of the things that I was a part of freshman year were all virtual, really. Even though we were in the same sort of physical location, or, spread across campus, it was mostly on Zoom, which was interesting. I think, as I said, people were comfortable with it at that time, but it was also quite meaningful to sort of increase the accessibility of the different kinds of people you're able to meet. So, for example, there was a program called Real Talk for Black men, and it was a sort of group to meet twice a month to talk about your mental health, and sort of really was a huge part of me acclimating to Carolina and getting to know some of the guys here. But then we sort of had, once things started getting more relaxed with COVID restrictions, we had in-person meetings as well. And so that was just a great part of my freshman year, where a lot of those guys I didn't actually see in person too often, but because things were on Zoom and everyone was sort of comfortable with that, it was still a really impactful part of my freshman year.
I love that. And I know you were an Agora Fellow. It's really funny because I'm one now, and I remember like looking back on the like website, I was like, okay, Nigel, like I just saw you immediately, and I always thought that was so cool. But tell me a little bit about the Agora Fellowship and why you joined.
Sure. The Agora Fellowship was my junior year that I did that. So a little bit forward in the the college process, but I believe I was in the second or third cohort of Agora Fellows. It is a program through the Program for Public Discourse, and we essentially learn how to facilitate conversation, civic dialogue, or it goes by a bunch of different names, but we learn ways to foster conversations among students. And it's typically around, issues that are maybe more controversial or difficult to have conversations about. But in my experience, it was really an opportunity to practice that skill. I don't think that people think about facilitating dialogue or having a conversation as something to practice, just because we sort of do it naturally all the time. But this was an opportunity to be really intentional about how are we constructing conversations on campus? What are the sort of goals and aspirations that we have with those conversations? What are the most equitable ways to do that? How can we actually bring people into conversations that are more difficult? But again, just exercising that skill of how to have a real productive conversation. That's sort of what drew me to the Agora Fellowship. And I think it was a great opportunity when I was in the cohort to, at the very least, meet new people and have a really interesting conversation about their worldview.
And also put you on the spot. Do you remember your favorite conversation or most impactful conversation from the fellowship?
I'm not sure I remember one in particular, but there were certainly opportunities to take what we learn and share that with the community. So I remember we had a conversation about it was either diversity or affirmative action, something along those lines. And we invited the campus. So we invited students to come participate. And I was facilitating one of those conversations. And it was just a great dialogue with a bunch of different people from different parts of campus. And I remember it was sort of outside of Phillips. We set up chairs outside that sort of area of campus. And it was really rewarding because it was a time to take sort of what we had been learning. And, Kevin Marinelli, the director of the program, had been sort of pouring into us and emphasizing all these different things for so long. And so we finally got to put into practice. And so that was a great opportunity for me. And I sort of motivated me to try to do more of that, to take the things that we were learning and apply that to not only structured conversations like that, but every sort of aspect of the other things that I was involved in.
I feel like one word, in my perception of you, one word to describe, actually 2 words, is public discourse. I feel like everything you do is somehow revolving around public discourse in a way, in the best way possible though. Food for Thought, which is an initiative you created as a sophomore from your civic collaboration summer that is hosted every Friday and brings in speakers. Tell me more about that. I'm on the new Food for Thought team, and I'm always astonished by the original team.
Y'all are killing it. I'm glad that y'all can carry the torch. But as you said, this was a idea. Tucker Stillman actually was the one who really spearheaded the idea and wanted the Cleveland team to be the team that brought this to life. So the original group was Tucker, me, Kate Quadlin, and Kendall Lee. And we just worked so well together before in our civic collaboration in Cleveland, and wanted to continue that and to bring back some of the things that we had learned there, and brought the model to the program. I was actually abroad when they were first pitching the idea to Chris and others in the foundation. But when I came back in second semester sophomore year was when we first had our first couple speakers, and it was I think it hit from the beginning. We try to get as many different kinds of speakers to touch on a lot of different kinds of topics. And sometimes they're more sort of political, sometimes they're more educational, sometimes they're more about the arts or sports. But I'll never forget our first speaker, Dr. Hickox from, he's a astrophysicist who specializes on black holes. And it was a topic that I had just never even considered I'm not in STEM at all. And so it was really outside of my area of expertise, but it really, I think, encapsulated what it was all about, where we had a real expert in the field come and provide a really interesting take on, modern science and space exploration and, what it takes to do that, and sort of his academic perspective on that. And then being able to ask that person any question you want is sort of the idea behind Food for Thought. And, I've been really proud of the work we've been able to do and carry it on. And I'm really glad that y'all are continuing.
Yeah. I genuinely did not know how much went into it. Before it's insane. Setting out all the tables, doing the silverware, literally catering essentially. And then recruiting the speaker and then making sure their accommodations are all good.
Yeah.
It's a lot. How did you balance, I guess this is just me asking on a personal,
Sure.
How did you balance all of that?
No, yeah, it is a lot. I think it really, why it worked was in large part because our team was really close to begin with. From the beginning, we didn't know each other going into Civic Lab.
Yeah.
I think we had, talked before and sort of met each other and been in some of the similar circles, but not, on that level. We had not worked together in that way. And so because we knew we worked so well together over the summer, we were able to apply that same dynamic to Food for Thought. And I think it worked quite well. Everyone sort of took on different roles quite naturally, I think.
Yeah.
I don't really think that there was a point where in the group there was one real leader that kind of, was directing everybody. We all sort of worked quite collaboratively to come up with the concept and to adapt it to the foundation and to bring it to life. I think it just was a product of how well we worked together.
Yeah. It's seriously so amazing how student-led it is. I think that's so phenomenal about Food for Thought. And I'm just so happy to be part of the new team coming in. I don't know, even hosting it today, very stressful. At the same time, it's so rewarding to have all those little skills of I know where to put a fork on the table and things like that. But speaking of student roles, tell me about your work in student government. Actually, first, what does student government do?
Great question. My introduction to student government was my junior year. So I guess sort of in the life of someone who's in student government, a little bit late to the program there, but started off as a deputy chief of staff. And the roles, there's a lot of different roles, and there's a lot of different sort of offices and departments and things. It can kind of get a little bit confusing. But I'll say, when it comes down to it, the description of what student government does is really to represent and advocate for the student body.
Yeah.
And that is sort of easier said than done, for sure.
Yeah.
As we're on a campus with 32,000 students, the executive branch is really focused on undergraduates, and the graduate students have their own sort of form of student government. But in my role now as the chief of staff, so it took one step up from last year. I work very closely with the student body president, who represents all 32,000 students. And so we have to take all of those experiences and concerns and opinions and translate that or sort of massage that into something that administrators and faculty members and staff will understand and resonate with and apply. Yeah. And again, easier said than done, especially on a campus with a massive campus of students, but also so many different departments and so many different administrators with different personalities and different interests. And so there's a lot of different ways that we do that work. There's the cabinet that I run, sort of secondary title for chief of staff is chief of the cabinet now, which is made up of 7 different departments led by different students that focus on different areas of campus. If it's DEI or environmental affairs or academic affairs or civic engagement, there's sort of something for everything. Yeah. And that is sort of our most diverse group within the executive branch. But then there's the Student Senate as well, that they're the ones that allocate funding to all the different student organizations. And then there's the Executive Council offices. So my office, the Office of the Chief of Staff, but then there's the president's office and the vice president's office.
Yeah.
You can sort of get granular with, it's like over 100 people that are involved in student government. But it's this big sort of group of people that are really focused on and passionate about representing the best interests of students. And so we try to do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like there's like the student body election or student body president election going on right now. And like you're seeing the host everywhere, but it's like, what does the student body president even do?
Sure.
And like that was always a question, but I don't know. I know like y'all do stuff, but like now you explaining it, like it just like it's full, like I get it now. Like, I totally do.
Yeah. And I should add, the role of the student body president is unique. I mean, they sit on the board of trustees.
Yeah.
And so that is sort of the ultimate advocacy role of a student. And then the rest of the executive branch is really focused on implementing the policy that they run on and then the programming that complements that policy. So, for example, something that the current student body president, Julia Taylor, ran on was a huge get out the vote campaign because we knew that we were going to be in an election year. And so the Department of Civic Engagement and Outreach Services, run by Nick and Zoe, who are students on campus right now, really took that on and put out what I thought was a really great effort. It was a campus-wide effort and partnered with a lot of different organizations and different parts of student government as well. But really took that aspect of her platform and brought it to life in a way that I was really proud of. And so that's just one example of the kinds of things that we do. But
I just saw the initiative. It's like the dining hall swipes?
Yeah, that's right. That's another huge win for the executive branch and something that Julia ran on. She's been working, really since she ran last year to get this program here at Carolina. It's a program that we've seen at other campuses in the UNC system, where you can donate meal swipes to students in need, trying to really get at the problem of food insecurity on campus, especially in places like South Campus, where there are limited options for food. And we part of the effort to get that program started was to provide the evidence to the board of trustees. And the way that she did that was a campus-wide effort to get real firsthand feedback on how students are experiencing food insecurity and what that actually means for their day-to-day life, and how a program like this would actually help that aspect of their student experience. And a huge win, I think, for student government and for Julia. She's put so much time and effort into bringing that to life. And I think it's just a testament to the kind of work that we're really trying to strive to do and the impact we're trying to have. And ultimately, she's a senior, I'm a senior. It's something great that I think we can leave the university with.
Yeah. And you were talking about DEI earlier. So how has that changed with policies and so forth coming down from both like UNC administration as well as Washington?
Well, so now things are changing, on a national level. I think we'd seen the trend sort of against DEI in a lot of different states, but now is, sort of a coordinated national effort, considering the executive orders that have been passed. Prior to that, though, as you know, in the summer, the UNC system repealed and replaced their DEI policy. And so that certainly meant changes on the administrative level, but very specifically in the new policy, student organizations are exempt from that kind of repeal. And so we were able to still have a Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which was central to Julia's campaign. And it is difficult, I'm sure, as you can imagine, when you run on something that is so core to your campaign and core to your values, and then the university goes in a complete opposite way. And so it's been a challenge for sure to deal with that and try to find ways to still bring the essence of what the words actually mean, diversity and equity and inclusion, sort of separate that from how politicized it's become, and really bring the sort of substance. But one thing that I'm proud of in terms of the transition in policy that the DEI department put on was a Q&A with our former Chief Diversity Officer, Leah Cox. She came and did a town hall, and it was great turnout with students who were troubled by the change, really wanting to get some answers for what Carolina without DEI would look like.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great opportunity for them to learn more about, I guess, the specifics of what that policy change means. And hopefully we can do something similar now that this executive order has passed, and now we've gotten, the memo from the Board of Governors as well to now make DEI focused classes not required for your gen eds or for your major.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of change. I think this administration has seen a lot of student government administration has seen a lot of change at Carolina.
Yeah.
Thinking about things like major protests on campus. But also, doing away with the student honor court system. There's been a lot of different major shifts in Carolina culture and sort of the structure of Carolina that we've had to deal with. But like I said, we do it to the best of our ability.
Yeah. And speaking of advocacy, like, what is your take on protest? I mean, in general, like, what do you think? You're all about public discourse, at least to me. Like, what do you think is the best way to go about advocating or speaking upon a problem or issue or so forth?
Yeah, this is an issue that I think about a lot, especially as an Agora Fellow, and especially considering the development of the new School for Civic Life and Leadership, which is all about civic discourse. I guess a short story. I did a Lovelace Fund for Discovery with my good friend Willow, who also actually happened to do my Outward Bound with me before I came to Carolina. But she was an Agora Fellow as well. And we were both really trying to get at the idea of, like, what is civic discourse? Why is it something that is so valuable? And so we did a tour last spring break of 3 different universities. We were at Princeton, Arizona State University, and Stanford, looking at their equivalents to the School for Civic Life and Leadership, with the goal of coming back with some, key reflections on what that looks like on campus and how that's been implemented in other universities. And I think my big takeaway from that experience and from sort of all of my experience with the Agora Fellowship and the Department of Public Discourse is a real sense that civic discourse, what is viewed as civic discourse and described as civic discourse, cannot be juxtaposed with protest, with activism. I think that it's a mistake for us to set those two things as a binary choice that we have to make as an institution, as an individual. I think they quite seriously go hand in hand when trying to create change. I have good relationships with people who protest far more than I do. I also have good relationships with people who think that protest is not effective or not the way to create change. I fall somewhere in between, where I think they both have to happen at the same time. Some people sort of are more inclined to protest and sort of have a more activist calling, which I think is great. And I think is an essential part of change at Carolina and has been for decades. And some people are more inclined to articulate their ideas in a way that is more acknowledged by an institution, more institutionally supported. And I think, over the past year, we've had, such major protests that have mirrored past movements. And it's been really inspiring to see. It's been, really great to have, sometimes if you want to have discourse, you got to have something to talk about. And so the protest in some ways gives you the thing to talk about. It draws the attention. It is the thing that, puts a spotlight on an issue. And I think that the civic discourse can pair with that so well when it is done thoughtfully and with consideration to the issues. I think a mistake that we've made at Carolina is sometimes focusing too much on the way in which people talk about an issue or the way in which people try to get change, and less about the actual content, the actual issue at hand. And so I've been, going back and forth with a lot of, my friends and administrators and people, colleagues in student government, about how to mend or mesh those two things and do both in a way that is effective. Because I do think real change doesn't come with just one or the other.
I love that. I feel like I just got so many like power quotes just from like listening to you. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you're a philosophy major, or you're in that realm?
I am a PPE minor, so I take some philosophy classes.
Yeah.
But my major is management and society through the sociology department. So I started off in sociology and now transitioned to management and society, I think in my sophomore year.
Yeah.
But then also a history minor.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I don't know, I saw that you had done a philosophy talk or like sponsored by the philosophy department.
Yeah.
And I think it was civic discourse.
It was civic discourse related.
It was literally that.
My junior year, most of my life was civic discourse.
Yeah.
So this was a fellowship called the Balter Fellowship through the philosophy department, where they invite students to explore, they fund you as well, to explore a philosophical question, trying to encourage diversity within the different things that we are pursuing in philosophy. And my idea was to examine the morality of civic discourse, which is sort of a ambiguous topic, but really thinking about when we are advocating for civic discourse, who does that sort of burden fall on when we want students to engage with sort of people from with differing opinions, or people from the other side of an issue. Really trying to get at, what is the power imbalance that might create?
Yeah.
What role does emotion have in civic discourse? How does, as I was saying earlier, civic discourse juxtapose with protest and other forms of civic expression? So that was a great opportunity. That was honestly one of the things I'm more proud of in my time at Carolina. I gave a lecture, and that was sort of the culminating project of that fellowship. But it was great. Kevin Marinelli came, and some other Agora Fellows came to support me. And we had a really great conversation about what it means to do civic discourse well.
Yeah. I think it's so funny because I had told you this earlier, but somebody had mentioned in the Agora meeting, like your exact talk, and it was like a year ago.
Yeah,
so that just shows like how profound it was to at least one person. I think that just shows like how impactful that was. And he was genuinely so passionate. He was like really excited. He like name dropped you. He was like, wait, I know Nigel.
That's really great. No, that is heartwarming.
Yeah. But tell me about your like future plans. I know that's a kind of a scary question.
Sure, yeah, it is a scary question. It's a question that I'm sure seniors are tired of.
Yeah.
At this point, we hear a lot of that. Yeah. But I think for me, I've really settled on the idea that public service is going to be the next step for me. I know ultimately I want to go back to school and either for law school or public policy program or something of that nature. But at least right after Carolina, I want to go into public service and work for a year or two.
Yeah.
This summer, I was an intern through the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. So I was working in Hakeem Jeffries' leadership office, which was just an amazing opportunity. It was something that I got the internship quite late, in the planning for the professional development summer process, but really, really loved my time there. Fell in love with DC as a city, but also fell in love with Capitol Hill and the energy that it, is brought there, and the real sense that what you're doing there is making a difference, or it feels important at least. And so I know that DC is an option for me. Hopefully, trying to get back on Capitol Hill. But as I said earlier, I'm from Maryland, and so working for a Maryland representative is really the goal. Yeah. But still applying for things that, government jobs are a little bit slow in terms of, in relation to other jobs in other sectors. But still applying for things and waiting for my time to come when I finally know what I'll be doing.
That's so exciting. And to start closing our episode, I wanted to do a rapid fire session.
Rapid fire, okay.
That was like the surprise I had. I'm trying to remember the questions. I think the first one, it was, what book are you currently reading? Or what book would you recommend people to read?
Yeah. Book I recommend. I have two books that I will say. One is it's not actually a book. I think it was turned into a book, but it was a commencement speech by David Foster Wallace. And we read this speech in a philosophy class I had, I think my sophomore year, freshman year, maybe. But I've revisited it so many times and has really sort of shaped the way that I try to approach interacting with other people and going through my day-to-day life. It's called This Is Water. Highly recommend giving that a read, reading it yourself, but also listening to David Foster Wallace, deliver the speech. Really great message that he has to give there. The second book is a book that was recommended to me. One of my friends who graduated last year was giving other people gifts as she was leaving. And so she gave me this book called Babel. I think the secondary title is The Necessity for Violence or something along those lines. And I am blanking on the author of that book, but really, really interesting book that is sort of historical fiction that concerns protest and activism and revolution in a college setting. So at the time that I was reading it, it was sort of over the summer. It was resonating very much with some of the things that I was experiencing with protests on campus, but really just a thought-provoking and well-designed book. It's quite long, but really, really loved that book. It's definitely one of my most recent favorites.
That's amazing. Okay, so second question that we have is, what is the theme song of your life?
Theme song of my life is really hard. I think it would have to be something Stevie Wonder, something off of Songs in the Key of Life. The whole album, maybe I'll say, because it's, I think, one of the best albums ever created. And so it just has a really familiar feel to me. It reminds me of my family, reminds me of sort of my roots and time with my family, which is really, for me, at the end of the day, all that really matters. And what I always go back to. So Songs in the Key of Life, best album, I think.
That's amazing. Our third question, I'm trying to think. Do you remember? Who's the most influential person in your life?
Yeah, definitely my parents. Definitely my parents. I feel like most people that we ask that question, that's who it is. Yeah. But they have just poured so much into me to be the person that I am today. Instilled in me a sense of, self-confidence and purpose and responsibility. Both of my parents, really just poured so much into me. My mom actually homeschooled my brothers and I for elementary school. And so literally was her job to educate us as we were younger. And so just really, great parts of my life that have always been there to support me. Yeah.
And our last question is, what would you do with $1 billion?
With $1 billion, that is a lot of money. I think I would certainly pour into the education system, particularly the public education system in Baltimore. Yeah. I was incredibly privileged to experience a private education in Baltimore City technically, but not anywhere near the kind of Baltimore City that people imagine when you say that. And the public school system there is just in such need. And ultimately, I think, as I go into public service, education is at the core of some of the things that I'd like to try to make an impact on. So definitely would pour into public school system in Baltimore.
Well, thank you, Nigel. That was amazing. It was great to have you on today. And with that concludes Kickin' It in the Kitchen. That's it.
Sweet.
Good job. Great job. That was awesome. I feel like I learned so much about you. Thank you for listening to Catalyze. You can let us know what you thought of this episode by emailing us at communications@moreheadcain.org or by following us on social media @Morehead-Cain.